you gotta feel bad for Chris Paul. Chris Paul scored. He played a good game. 26 points, 5 assists, 11-19 shooting. Even though the infamous Scott Foster was reffing, which dropped to the 0-13 in playoff games where you officiate. That's crazy to me. But
yeah,
you got. I put the blame too on Ayton for not playing big. I think it was just intimidated not only at the moment, but at facing Giannis. I think Giannis psyched him out totally.
Yeah, I think if you look at Ayton's stat line, those first couple games, he looked like the Ayton we saw in the Western Conference Finals.
Yeah.
And, that Ayton, because during these playoffs, I was like, oh man, DeAndre Ayton's looking like a big from the 90s. Like the numbers he's putting up, and like he's turning into one of the best bigs in the game. And then I forget which game it was. I knew one of these.
It was game 4, Kevin, when he scored 6 points.
6 points. Yeah. I knew he had 6 points in one of them, and it's like, so you saw that regression in his play, and that goes back to Scott, you talking about the adjustments Milwaukee made and just how they started physically dominating the interior. And I think you're right. I think he got a little gun shy because he really hadn't been challenged up until this point. Zubac's not going to challenge him, as talented as he is. So yeah, I think he got a little gun shy, and I think that was a big part of it. I think a big thing for the Suns too is just which game was it? Was it game 4 or 5 where Booker had that turnover late that kind of sealed the loss? He dribbled in.
It was game 5.
It was game 5.
And Holiday
just took it away from him.
And for me, I was just like, whoa, who's Phoenix's closer here? Isn't Booker the closer, or is he looking for Paul? And so I think one strength that Phoenix had throughout the playoffs was they spread it around. Ayton was on some nights, Booker was on, Paul was on. I mean, and that was one thing that I really marveled at was just the incredible team play that they had that got them to this point. But then, in that moment when you need somebody who's going to be the guy,
right?
And is it Booker or is it Paul? Because Booker in that moment, like, he looked like a deer in headlights.
He dribbled too low.
He just, I mean, his eyes, you could, like, he had no idea where he was going with the ball, what he was doing, and Holiday was just like, thank you.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, but that was a testament to the rest of the Phoenix Suns just having a poor offensive output throughout the entire series, because that's something that we saw with Phoenix throughout the entire Western Conference playoffs. Like I said before, the Cam's playing well, with DeAndre Ayton playing well, with Jay Crowder hitting buckets, and you couldn't count on them in the finals. And it just seemed like it was a situation where Devin Booker just went into a double team that eventually turned into a triple team that led to that turnover, and he just had nowhere else to go.
Well, you guys remember on that play, like, even though they were not dominant, but they played. They were outplayed for the better of the final 3 quarters. They were in it. They were still in it at that point. They were down 1. Mm-hmm. Booker, what he did when he dribbled, like, no one called a timeout, so it was chaos everywhere, right? So remember, he dribbled down, he dribbled like to the elbow, right, near the free throw line. It looked like he was going to take the shot then, but he hesitated and went down further and got himself in a whole lot of trouble. I think if he would have raised up the shot over Tucker, he would have had a better shot. And that's the shot. That's his shot. He's, the mid-range. Mm-hmm. That's his game. So I think when he hesitated and went down lower, you could see it coming. You could see it coming because Giannis would drape them. And then he turned around and Jrue Holiday was looking at him. And as soon as Jrue Holiday went for it, I was like, oh. And it was y'all saw the rest. It was a 3-on-1 fast break. Then look at Giannis sprinting down the floor with his long legs like a gazelle. Chris Paul fouled him on the alley-oop. I was like, yeah. But I would say this, though. Phoenix, they didn't give up in game 6.
No.
They didn't. I thought they were going to fold like a tent in game 6 because even though they got outplayed the final 3 quarters of game 5, they were shooting the ball well. They rebounded decently. It's not like they played terrible. It's just that Milwaukee was just better. So Milwaukee literally took their best shot of the whole series and still won on their home court, on Phoenix's home court. That's why I was like, oh, it's over. Mm-hmm. How do you come back from that? But credit for Phoenix for fighting. Credit for Chris Paul for having the game that he had. He wasn't going to go out like a punk.
Mhm.
but Milwaukee's just better. But I just wish that, what if, we're talking about lack of adjustment earlier, Kevin, what if Monty Williams were to build that wall? I know they lost their big man
Mhm.
in game one, the other big man, which probably made a huge difference, but why not build a wall? Why not use Kaminsky more on the defensive end and just frustrate Giannis? I didn't understand why he allowed Ayton to single cover the man the entire series.
Yeah, no, it didn't make sense, and I mean, you just, you know, I keep going back to why didn't Quinn Snyder, match the small play of the Clippers, and you can say the same thing for Monty Williams in the finals. Why didn't he readjust? Why didn't he try to match it? And I really don't have an answer because, like you said, I think Ayton was scared of Giannis, and yeah.
Yeah. Dwayne, yeah, I was just shocked. I love Monty Williams as a coach. He
As
did
do
great
I.
things in New Orleans with
Yeah.
Chris Paul, and he was
Mhm.
doing good things last year in the bubble. They went undefeated.
Yeah.
And I was like, they're gonna go on the road, guys. And they did. I didn't think they'd get this far, but they did. And those guys are young. They're not
Yeah.
gonna go anywhere anytime soon. I just wish they would have made that, at least that one adjustment, because it worked for everybody else. It
Mhm.
almost worked for Atlanta.
Yeah.
It's just that Atlanta's not as talented as Milwaukee, or long as Milwaukee. That's
And
what
see,
did them in.
the only thing, and once again, this is a basketball idiot questioning the moves of a NBA coach, right?
Right. Me too.
Maybe it was because he thought that Kaminsky wasn't going to give him the offensive firepower that they were going to need in order to keep up with the Bucks, especially the way that they look shooting percentage wise in those last 4 games.
Sure.
And he didn't want to sacrifice offense for defense in that situation.
Sure.
But who's to say that it wouldn't have helped them defensively force Milwaukee to take shots that they didn't want to take? But, that's one of those, you're damned if you do, you're damned if you don't.
Yeah.
Unless you try it and it actually works or it doesn't work.
Yeah.
I think that's a great point because I think, I touched on it last time you had me on. I think one thing that I really found, for lack of a better word, so beautiful about Phoenix's game, and we already talked about it a little bit, is how well they spread the ball around and how prolific, their offense was, because you could kick it to, Jay Crowder, you could kick it to McCall Bridges, and they were hitting shots, and that wasn't happening in this series. But I think, if you're looking for an answer, I think Dwayne maybe hit the nail on the head there. Is you don't want to sacrifice what your identity is on offense, because you want to continue to try to keep that fast pace, spread it around, keep the defense on their heels. And Kaminsky probably would have been a hindrance to that. Yeah.
Yeah, Sarge going out. That was, I couldn't think of his name earlier. Sarge.
Yeah, Dario Saric. Yep.
That was a big injury. It was bigger than what we all would imagine.
Yeah, it took away from their rotation.
Yeah, it did. There was one less big guy to at least, he's talented. He's a talented big man. He's not a scrub. He's not a stiff. But at least I was going to say it took away at least one big man to give at least those 4 or 5 fouls to, right, to make Giannis work for it. And make Giannis force him on the defensive end to cover Sarge, because he has a good shot. Nice shot too. So that really hurt Phoenix. But again, I was